Welcome on in, everybody, to the Dbacks funeral of the 2025 season. Nah, I'm just kidding, but it kind of feels like that. Gabe and I are here to discuss a series sweep at the hands of the Miami Marlins, one of the worst teams in baseball, as the Dbacks have now wrapped up their 9-game stretch against 3 of the worst teams in baseball. But before we kind of dive into everything, get our thoughts, and kind of, get our rants out and everything, we want to welcome all of you guys in. If this is your first time here at Dbacks Dispatch, this is not the normal trio here that we have. Usually, I don't know why my camera's doing some weird stuff here. It's not the normal trio that we have here. Our man Brandon is in Cabo. He's getting some dinner soon, so wish Brandon well in his rest of his trip in Mexico. But make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe on the YouTube channel. It really does help out a lot. Make sure you guys go over to our Twitter, Instagram, TikTok as well. Follow us all over on there. Check out the, I think, pin tweet on Twitter should have a link to our Discord. Why is my camera doing that? I have no idea. Either way, we're gonna just keep moving on. I'm not used to this new transition or doing any of the. I have you backstage. I have no why. I mean, you're on the thing here. Okay, this is our first time in here. Our first time that I have been running the show here. So again, bear with us while we try to get used to all the new changes and whatnot. But like I said, also make sure you guys go over to azsnakepit.com. Check out all the written content over there. I know Josh does a lot of our series recaps into written content. Post them on there. There's also a lot of game recaps, and all that kind of fun stuff from a ton of great writers, even some deep dives and some other analysis that I think you guys would enjoy. So again, azsnakepit.com is the best place to go for all of your written Dbacks content. But like I said, we are here to discuss as Vi puts it, Diamondbacks, because we are the purest form of mid at this point. Even as Charles Elliott is saying, "Woo, let's go. We are mid. We are mid." Indeed, and we'll definitely dive into that a little bit more. But going into Friday night, the D-backs, I believe, were 2 games over 500. They went 4-2 on their road trip against the Rockies and Marlins, or Rockies and White Sox. Didn't look like maybe the best, but hey, you know what? They're over 500, coming back home to face 3 of the worst teams, and looked like things were going to hopefully turn around there. Monday night got off to at least a positive note, as this was the first time that the D-backs being back in town. Cattell got a very, very big standing ovation. Shout out all the fans that liked or saw Gabe's tweet about wearing pink and all that. And I think it was Neil. Don't know how to pronounce the last name, so I'm not going to butcher it, but Neil on Twitter that got the idea to hand out a bunch of pink shirts that says Cattell is my MVP. So shout out every fan that was there that either wore the pink or brought your own pink, or just in general was there giving him a standing ovation, because again, he deserves all the love, should be a Diamondback for life. So shout out there. The rest of the game was up and down. It was a roller coaster. D-backs went ahead, but then the Marlins scored 6 across the next 3 in the 4th, 5th, and 6th innings. Taylor Scott should be DFA'd, but of course our bullpen is just in shambles. So unfortunately, you got to work with what you got. He gives up 3 in the 8th and 9th inning, and then with a classic punt job, the D-backs do put up 3 in the 9th inning, but an inning-ending double play or game-ending double play from Tim Tawa. The D-backs fall short on the comeback. They lose game 1 9-8. Game 2. D-backs were up 5-1 after 4 innings, even 6-1. But then, of course, they bullpen once again. They give up 4 in the 8th and the 9th inning, and the D-backs cannot. They just can't. Or sorry, they went up 6-2, and then they gave up 4 in the 8th and 9th inning. The D-backs bullpen once again doing D-backs bullpen things, and it was horrific. Losing the 10th inning, couldn't even get the ghost runner off of second base there, and the D-backs lose the series. Coming to today's game, D-backs look to at least salvage something, stay over 500, but had a 2-1 lead through most of the game. Ketel Marte hit his 17th home run of the season, I believe it was. 17th home run of the season, giving them a 2-1 lead. And then from that point on, they did not get a single hit until the 8th inning. Literally hitless for the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th inning. A few walks here and there, a few, I think, errors on the Marlins. No errors, but a few walks here and there. Then the D-backs bullpen implodes. They give up 5 in the 8th. I believe they walked a total of, I'm going to check here, they walked a total of 10 Marlins in this game. where the Marlins only walked 2 Diamondbacks. So once again, free bases just absolutely killed the Diamondbacks in this series finale. They do get 2 back in the 8th inning, but that's pretty much where the comeback ends, and the D-backs lose this one 6-4, getting swept by, like I said, one of the bottom 5 teams in all of Major League Baseball. And as I was joking about in the beginning of the show, not sure how much of a joke it is. Uh, D-back season pretty much over at this point, where everything's rolling. How strong the NL West is again, not officially over. There's still games to be played. They could go on a 15-game winning streak, and who knows, we're going to be so back. But at the rate of this squad and the rate that we're, in the form that we're seeing them with the bullpen, everything like that, I do not see anything that gives me hope that we're going to get into that. But my question to you, Gabe, like I said, and everyone else, usually we go through here game by game. We have our own, singular topic from each game, something we want to discuss. But with how everything kind of turned out, there was one big overlying issue, the bullpen itself. We know the bullpen's been a big struggle all year, I believe. Going into Sunday's game, they had a total of 27 blown leads. I'm not sure if that's in a certain inning or later, but still 27 blown leads. Even if you only win half of those games, they're still a much better team off than they are right now. Now it is 28. And even before today's game, they were the definition of a pyramid. I believe it was Mac. Member of our Discord, shout out Mac, had a tweet that's popping off on Twitter that they were the definition of a pyramid. They were 41-41. They were 500 at home, 500 on the road. Genuinely just the most mid you can possibly get for a team, and now we are below mid as we are 41-42. But my question to you, everyone in the chat, chime in as well, or if you're listening to this after the fact, let us know in the YouTube comments or come into the Discord again. Let us know in there. Always like to have you guys and get your guys' 2 cents on everything. With the shape of this team, again, there's a lot of moves that could be made. It's not like we just need one bullpen arm. We need a few. We also need a starter, maybe an extra bat, even though we are one of the top offenses in the league. Do the D-backs go the route of being sellers or buyers, and then whichever route they go, are they going to be hard buyers, soft buyers, hard sellers, or soft sellers? I'm curious what you guys think. And Gabe, I'm curious, where do you think this team kind of goes from here after a brutal 3-game sweep at the hands of the Marlins?
So I guess the question's always going to come down to what should they do and what are they going to do. And, I guess nuance is kind of a lost art nowadays. Everyone's either saying sell, or buy, and buy. Yeah, but I don't know. Like, a part of me falls right in between, where I feel like they should do like a soft sell and like a soft buy at the same time. But my issue lies not so much with the team as it does with Mike Hazen, because we've seen what he does when he does have these sort of like hard sells that he does, like in 2019 when he sold off Zach Greinke. And have a list here of who he gave up for Zach Greinke. It was Seth Beer, JB Bukowskis, Corbin Martin, and Josh Rojas. I think all of them combined didn't even reach 1 WAR in their entire time here. So giving up a Hall of Famer for guys who combined for maybe a WAR, if not a negative WAR, during their time here isn't a good look for Mike Hazen. And we saw what he did with Goldie when he sold him off in 2018. Again, that team, or it was 19, also for the 19 season, yeah. So, and he got no return for that, just complete garbage. And same with Robbie Ray. He's traded him for, I think his name is Scott Burgeon, I believe. Also trash. Escobar, he got Cooper Hummel and Alberto Ciprian. Bunch of no names. Cooper Hummel, I think, is with Seattle or something.
I think we had to give up Johan Duran in that trade as well.
Yeah. And then Soria and Votes, a bunch of MLB minor leaguers, never panned out. And then for Andrew Chafin, which he actually had a pretty good year while he was here, he traded for Simon. Then he got Jordan Luplow, who was the Pavin before Pavin Smith. So all in all, when he gives up the big fish, he proves to be really bad at his job. And I feel like he's better at buying. Getting a guy like Josh Naylor or Zach Gallen. I think if he's buying, he usually does a pretty damn good job. I mean, what's his face? Puck as well. Like, he usually does buy pretty good players. The issue is when he sells off the guys. So Zach Gallen, I know he doesn't have a good year right now, but he's probably gonna get anything for him. But Merrill Kelly, do you trust who Mike Hazen trades for Merrill Kelly, or for Gino, or for Naylor? I kind of don't. I don't, like, I know they're the more coveted guys, and probably the guys who are getting calls about, for the rest of the league. But do you seriously trust Mike Hazen to make a good decision on this? And he's been saying for the last 5 years, "Oh, I don't want minor leaguers." But if that's who they're offering, I feel like Mike Hazen's going to take it, and I don't want that. I want him to trade for guys who are already in the big leagues, who are proven talent, the way he did with Zach Gallen and Jazz Chisholm. Like, they traded guys who were already major league ready and major league caliber guys. So unless he's doing that, I don't think they should sell, and I think they should maybe buy some guys. But again, I think this team's need are deeper than just the bullpen. They need at least two bullpen guys. They need one starting pitcher, and they need a actual DH, because Pavin, our average doesn't go even lower. His OPS is going to go lower and lower as the season goes on. I can't bear to see him at 3 hole over and over again. They need an actual DH, and with how many injuries they've had, I don't know. I feel like this team is getting from bad to worse, and they're under 500 now, and they're punting games. I mean, you can't tell me they didn't punt in Colorado. A lot of people saying, "Oh, well, the injuries." Well, they had enough guys to fill those roster spots. They didn't. They filled them with a bunch of guys who should be riding the bench, but Torrey decided to put in guys that had no business being in that game. And then in games before that, there's been at least damn near 20 games that they've clearly punted on, and Friday was no exception. Putting in Scott again. So my question is, if they get two actual guys, back end relievers, if they get an 8th inning guy and a 9th inning guy, how is Torrey going to use them? Is he going to use them as the way they're supposed to be used, or is he going to be pussyfooting around the way he did with J Mart and Puck at the beginning of the season, being like, "Oh, I don't know, either one could take the job." I don't know. I don't know what he's going to do. Are they going to force him to actually use the 8th inning guy in the 8th inning and the 9th inning guy in the 9th inning, or is he still going to do the same crap that he's done this entire time here, which is kind of moving guys around until he finds a spot for them?
Yeah, so it's the entire situation is going to be one of those where I feel like it's going to suck no matter what. Because I know even on Twitter I was called a quote unquote a fan for looking at this team's outlook and trying to be honest, and maybe going, hey, you know what, if we're going to be sellers in a seller's market, we can get some good guys, even like you said. Because even as Charles was saying, sometimes prospects don't work out. Trading for potential is always a crapshoot. Just like you were saying, Mike Hazen hasn't had the best, return for the guys he's traded for, and especially, I mean, I know it didn't necessarily like really blow up in our face, but even one of the things I think of is 2019 trading for Starling Marte, and then in 2020, again, I know it was a shortened season and all that, but immediately trading him away for just scraps. Like, I don't even remember who we got for him, but I'm pretty sure it was absolutely nothing. And Brendan Malone didn't turn out really anything for Pittsburgh, so it's not like we gave up anybody crazy, but even the Robbie Ray that you brought up, that was an incredible like solo, and even at the time it was looking kind of like similar to what the Zach Gallen situation is right now, to where he was just not doing good, and it was kind of like well, what are you going to get for him? What are you even going to get for him anyway? Might as well get something. And obviously, he's had a little bit of a turnaround. He won a Cy Young in Toronto for right now for the Giants. I believe he has a sub-3 ERA, so he's definitely fixed some of his issues that he had here in the desert. Once again, goes back to, I don't know what kind of curse we have of not being able to develop a fucking pitcher to save our goddamn lives. Everybody that comes here either breaks or just turns to absolute shit at this point. But on the aspect of like punting games away, once again, it was just frustrating with that game on Friday, seeing Taylor Scott. Again, I get, the bullpen, there's only so many guys you can use, but even as Elise says today, in Sunday's game, he punted today, leaving Beeks out there to walk the world. And that was another frustrating thing, is like, again, there's only so many guys you can choose from, but after 3 walks and 30-plus pitches, I believe Gabe was even mentioning in our group chat, you got to go to somebody else at some point. You gotta at least try to, again, let somebody else, if they blow the game, cool, they blow it, but you're just leaving certain guys out there to die. And again, a lot of it is on the players themselves for not performing. Torrey wasn't the one that walked those 3 guys. Torrey wasn't the one that went hitless in, innings 4 through 7. So it's not all on Torrey, but there are a few decisions here and there that sometimes just seem to look like they're just, oh, you know what, we'll get him next time. We'll get him next time kind of attitude. And it's just very frustrating to see. But on the subject necessarily of, whether being buyers or sellers, I'm torn because again, like even Brandon's brought up, trying to be more the optimist in our group chat, and a lot of fans they have a point, and even I think the Snake Pit Twitter account is bringing up like this still is a good offense. They just need a few things to kind of settle in. Maybe a guy like Finnegan, and whatnot. But my big fear with going after that because like you said, we need not just one bullpen arm, we need two, we need a starting pitcher. This to me seems like another seller's market year, and our farm is already stretched thin enough. Whether it be injuries, whether it be guys that were supposed to be top prospects haven't panned out yet. I know Drew Jones really hasn't gotten a call up from Hillsboro. A few guys like Ryan Waldschmidt's looking really solid, and even Spencer Geising and Yumin Lin, having some decent years down in the minors. But the farm system is already stretched thin, so to get some of these relievers like a Finnegan, or even like if they do go after a guy like David Bednar and like maybe package him with Mitch Keller, I feel like what we'd have to give up would leave us potentially a little bit thin going into 26 and 27 and beyond, to where if it doesn't work out, like let's say we do go be hard buyers in a sense and try to fill all the holes that we need to fill, if we still just end up as a 500 team and miss out on the playoffs, it could genuinely fuck us over next year and the year beyond and even a few more years, and we never rebuild. We always retool. We could go back into our retooling
Yeah.
years and waste these prime years that we have of Corbin with his insanely team-friendly contract. Some of the final prime years of Cattell. Corbin Burns, like I know he's going to be injured, but what's it going to show to a guy like him where he's like, yeah, cool, I'm glad I came here just to see this team, retool once again. And again, a week or two of just playing really well could instantly fix a lot of these woes, could make us, because again the trade deadline's I believe not until July 31st, so we're about a month away from it happening. So a month is a lot of baseball left to be played. I know a little bit of it is kind of taken up because of the All-Star game, but the schedule is not going to get any easier. We have 4 against the Giants coming up, then we have 3 against the Royals, and then after that we go 4 against the Padres in San Diego. Every game in San Diego is a hellhole to play, and then a little bit of a let up against the Angels. But as we saw from this 9-game stretch, even against
In 500
bad
ball.
teams, quote unquote, we play terrible against teams that we should be beating, teams that playoff teams prove that, we're better than these guys. And then after the All-Star break, we start with the Cardinals. They're a team that we need to win. We got swept by them in St. Louis. We need to beat them if we want to have a chance. Like that's the series we need to at minimum win. Then we have the Astros immediately after. They're playing well again. Then we have the Pirates, who we already struggled against here in the desert. And then we have one of the best teams, if not the best team in the American League, the Detroit Tigers, to end off the season or end off the month. So the schedule for July is going to be pretty daunting. And at the rate the team's playing, like I know you even made a joke about it in our group chat, our big move is going to be getting Corbin Carroll back from the IL, and Mike Hazen's going to make the comment of, we're getting an MVP caliber talent back to our roster, and that's, almost as good of a trade. And it sucks because I would prefer them stand pat and not make any kind of insane trades and just maybe try to ride out the team they have over being hard buyers if it jeopardizes their future going forward, because I'd be upset if we already lessen our farm talent than what it is now currently just to, miss out on the playoffs, either by the same margin as a game we did last year or even further.
Um, I mean, you make good points, but I would ask you, do you see this team competing in 2026? Because there's no Corbin Burns, no Justin Martinez, no AJ Puck, no Zach Allen, no Merrill Kelly, no Josh Naylor, no Gino Suarez, potentially no Gurriel. Do you see the team that's constructed on paper for next season? Do you see that team as a contender?
Maybe not as as we saw them going into the season of how hyped we were thinking they're going to win 90 plus games and the stacked roster. To me, it's more of I feel like this team plays a lot of their better baseball when they don't have as much pressure on them, and like I know Tori doesn't like to use the word expectations, but that's what it is. Expectations to be a good team, to where like they're like, oh, we can't be embarrassed losing to this team. Where the 2022 and even 2023 Diamondbacks, the thing that was so fun to watch about them is they just went out there and they were like, dude, we don't give a shit who the fuck we're playing. We're going to play our style of baseball and we're going to go out there and we're going to win. And I think there's a chance they could do that again, even if they are missing guys, like you said, some of the pitchers, whether it's guys leaving in free agency like Zach Gallen, potentially Merrill Kelly, or guys being injured with Corbin Burns and other bullpen pieces. I think they can still play because we know this is still a solid squad. Even currently, again, even if you take out Gino and Naylor, we might still take a step back offensively. But I still think that they have good enough players where they can still play well. It's just Sometimes I think they get in their own way mentally, and they press too hard every single game. They might, get into the head of like, oh yeah, we're NL champions 2 years ago. We gotta, be playing the best baseball we can, and again, maybe they don't have the expectations to be an 80-win team, but I definitely think that they could still at least compete next year being a wild card team. And again, that all does hinge on some of these guys in the farm. Maybe Yumin Lin does replace a guy like Gallen. Maybe Spencer Geisting does a really solid finish to his 2025, wins a spot in 2026. Maybe Ryan Nelson really does bounce back. Maybe Brandon Pfaadt has a bounce back. Like there's a lot of what ifs and whatnot, but I would at least try to bank on some of the names we have in the system, then sell them now. And even the guys, like if we only get a few guys in a trade that are going to be a free agent after this year, like Ryan Helsley, like we talked about all offseason wanting him, he's a 1 year guy, or a guy that's going to leave the very next year, and we see heavy regression like we saw with Paul Sewald in 2024. It's one of those where I'd rather bite the bullet and at least try to keep a lot of the team we have than just stretch ourselves thin and be even worse off, because again we might not compete for the division next year, but I still think we could at least compete as a wild card team, even missing some of the pieces that we have this year that are going to be walk guys.
Yeah, the reason why I asked it is because I don't think so. I don't think with who we have currently, like even in the system, we're going to be banking a lot of, like you said, a lot of what ifs. And I don't know how much I trust what ifs on this team because we would be bringing up two inexperienced pitchers. We would need a guy at first who we don't have right now. We would need a guy at third who we don't have right now, and potentially a guy in the outfield as well. What about the rest of our bench? Like this team would have to go out and buy, and I think Jack Summers brought up this team only has about 22 million worth, like in terms of money, like quote unquote free money to spend if they choose to spend the same amount as they did last this season. What do you do with those 22 million? How do you fill out the 4 or 5 roster spots, a couple of pitching, with the bullpen as well? The bullpen is going to be another huge problem. What does Mike Hazen do in that case? So that's why I asked that question, is because like, do you trust that team coming into next season, or is it another wash year? Do they think it's another rebuild? I know they don't use rebuild; they use retool. Because if it's another retool year, then a part of me feels like this is the year you go for it. You actually go out. I mean, maybe not give up top guys, but go out and get a couple of high end relievers, get a high end pitcher, get something that you can use like going forward to where it makes a true difference in this team. Because who did we trade for last year? We got Puck, Flores, who was garbage, and Josh Bell, who was good, but that was it. And I mentioned it last year, and I think you guys might have disagreed with it a little bit. That I felt Mike Hazen abandoned this team. This team was 5 games over 500, so they're even better than they were now. And Mike Hazen did nothing at the trade deadline. I mean, he got Puck, who was great for us, and Bell was good for us as well. But they weren't earth-shattering moves the way the Padres going out and get Tanner Scott, the Dodgers
There's the
going out and
soft sell moves that
getting Flaherty and what's his face from the White Sox,
Kopech.
Kopech, guys that helped them win the World Series. The D-backs did none of that. Puck helped them a lot for sure, and Josh Bell did while Christian Walker was out, but it wasn't anything like those moves. Like, if you want to get the best, you got to spend like the best. This year, it showed you what happens when you don't spend like the best. And look at this bullpen. Tanner Scott got a big contract, and he's been very good for the Dodgers. A lot of these big market free agent relievers, they went to those teams, and they're competing right now. They're doing a really good job. They're helping those teams win a lot more games than they probably should be winning. And instead, a lot of people are saying like, "Oh, well, Hazen actually did a pretty good job with the bullpen this year." Show me on paper who he went to go buy. How much money did he spend? And I'm not counting the J Mart contract because he didn't need to spend money on J Mart. Who did he go out and buy? He went out and got Shelby Miller, who was off of not even a minor league
He was a minor
contract.
league. He was a minor league
Invite.
contract. Oh, invite.
He was a non-roster invitee. He had to fight for his spot, and actually, there's somebody else. I can't even, oh, Graveman. Graveman was the minor league contract. Jalen Bakes was literally picked off the street the day before the season started. That's who they spent money on. That's a combined $2 million. This team spent $2 million on a revamped bullpen, as Hazen put it, and they all put it. They're banking too much on two guys who threw really hard. I mean, they're great. They're great while they're healthy, but this team shouldn't have fallen apart as quick as it did with those two guys out. Because I can guarantee you, if the Dodgers lose Scott and Gratterall, they're going to be fine. Right now, they're throwing out 85-year-old Clayton Kershaw and still winning a bunch of
They'll just
games.
put Shohei Ohtani into a closer role, if we're being honest.
Yeah, like they have a whole bunch of guys that step up, and Torrey today in the press conference say like they don't want to use injuries as an excuse. So if they're not using it as an excuse, then fans shouldn't either, blaming
Good point.
everything on injuries. Because again, this team was a 500, if not 5 games below 500, when the entire team was healthy. So if they weren't competing when healthy, and how are they going to compete now that they're unhealthy? So again, if Torrey's not using injuries as an excuse, and the rest of the fans shouldn't either, this team should have that mentality of next man up. And as of right now, there is no next man up. All the guys after the next man, they have not shown up, and I don't know what to do in this case. I mean, they have too many guys to buy, but if they feel they can get major league ready talent from Naylor, from Gino, from Gallen, from Kelly, they might have to. But
Yeah.
again, we've seen how Hazen's moves like this have panned out. And I don't know. I mean, maybe let Amito Sade take care of this portion of the trade deadline.
Yes, I mean, and that's the thing that sucks is I feel like again maybe we're just throwing around the curse as like a cope way to just excuse maybe some of the shit drafting, trading, luck, and all that. But I do agree. Like again, yes, we weren't expecting all these injuries, but I think even Elise brings up a great point. Is we weren't expecting um, the kind of regression we've seen from guys, especially like Thompson, Ginkel. They've just been genuinely like mid. Like Ginkel, I don't know what happened with him. I feel like he's seen a few ticks down on his stuff. Ryan Thompson, I know he wasn't the best even last year, but in 2023 when we got him, he was borderline elite. Like he was going out there, he was getting 3 outs, and we didn't have to worry about a single thing. He's not that guy anymore. Um, we're the guys that we were expecting or we were banking on to get the high leverage innings got hurt. Like we've said, I believe the last time with Brandon, like Shelby Miller, or in the Toronto series, Shelby Miller wasn't supposed to get high leverage innings, but because of injuries and because of certain guys' performances, he was forced into getting high leverage injuries. And even Charles Elliott's bringing up, even Jay Jamison, I think we all expected he would be great in the bullpen this year. Seems like he's still hurt, and I think even Jeff was mentioning in our Discord, he was doing an ACL rehab game and then got pulled in the middle of it for some unmentioned reason still, which is unfortunate. Um, but I wanted to highlight and read some of these other comments from you guys because some of them have been kind of making me laugh too. Because even William Harold is saying they punt more than the Lions do, and I'm pretty sure that's actually a confirmed fact at this point. Because the Lions like hardly punted; they always went for it on fourth down. Where Torrey's like, you know what, 3rd and 2 in the opponent's like 20-yard line. Nah, it's fine. It's fine. We're just we'll stop them on defense, kind of a mentality. Uh, And then even like Eliza saying the vibes seemed so bad. The shots to the dugout after that loss seemed like they were done. And I think that's just going to happen no matter what, even if a team was up by like, 5 or 6 or like 5 or 6 over 500. I think a loss like that, even on Saturday and whatnot, it's very draining thing. Like even the fake, quote unquote, fake comebacks constantly after a bullpen implosion just really take a toll on you. Like as a player and as a fan. Just bringing up this team has too many needs to salvage things. They needed to commit to selling, addressing the core deficiencies like acquiring pitching depth from guys who throw 95 plus, guys with stuff, and also first base. And I think that's a good point. Got to like that's kind of what my aspect, or I think where me and Gabe will probably agree with you. But at least like Gabe even brought up is, but do you trust who they trade away to get like do you trust them to actually address those needs in the trades and get guys that will do that, or are they just going to turn out to be more quadruple A guys and guys that like we got from the Seth Beer trade that turn out to be borderline nothing. Jeff also does bring up saying we need to remember due to all the Tommy Johns our competitive window isn't likely opening again until 2027. And I think that's probably an unfortunate thing that again, we've even seen crazier things. Like I said earlier, this roster with no expectations, I feel like can still be a good team. It's just I don't think we're gonna have the same kind of expectations going into 2026 that we had going into this year. I mean, we can go back and look at some of the clips when we did our preseason predictions. We were expecting this team to be like a 94, 95 win team, but that was obviously not taking into account all these Tommy Johns. That was not taking into account the regression from so many guys, whether it be Zach Gallen or bullpen guys, or even certain hitters here and there, um, or having to rely on Pavin Smith in the 3 hole as our main DH option, where the offense has still been a top 5 offense without Jock Peterson, but it's just unfortunate to see. And I think there's another comment here from Cam that I think is a great point. And I know you're talking about the money the D-backs have to spend in free money, saying I feel like our inability to trade away Monty hurt our budget in trying to buy more bullpen arms, and that's still probably a good valid point to it. Where Kendrick has spent a lot of money, and it sounds like he still was at least still willing to spend more, but maybe didn't have the money to go get a guy like Tanner Scott or some of the other like higher end, bullpen arms that we're now unfortunately seeing dominate for other teams. Like I know he hasn't had the kind of like Tanner Scott didn't have the greatest season, and I'm not sure if he's hurt right now. I don't think it's Tommy John hurt, but I still would have loved them to make the same kind of trade for Devin Williams because the Yankees basically gave up fucking nothing. And yes, again, Devin Williams hasn't been the greatest there. Maybe he'd do the same thing here, but still seems like giving up nothing for a Devin Williams, at least like a proven closer.
Yeah,
It,
and
it's just
that's always my question about it, because you see all these moves being made for literally nothing. Like same with the Rafi Devers one, where they got him for literally nothing, and and that's when I asked, like, okay, like why isn't Mike Hazen doing this? What is he doing that he doesn't allow this? Are they not calling him, or is it that he can't get these deals done? Because well, at least my brothers told me, some other people have commented on Twitter, like, oh, you don't know if they asked for Lawler, if they asked for Alec, if they asked for this and that. Like, if you read the report for what happened with the Rafi Devers, their GM was like, all right, but we need your top prospect. Buster Posey said no, like just straight up was like, nah, we're good. And then he's like, okay, fine. Then he gave it to him without wasting that top prospect. So at that point, it's like, what are Hazen's negotiating tactics like that? He can't move. Like, okay, sure, if you're not going to give up Alec or Lawler or whatever, how bad are you in negotiating that you're not getting these deals done the way all these other teams are getting it done? Look at Kopech and Flaherty. Like, what did the Dodgers give up? They gave up Miguel Vargas. Vargas
good
was
player,
batting
but like
150 for them. He wasn't even a good player when they traded him. He was batting like
he's
150.
at least a talented
He's
guy and a top prospect. But you're right, like it's the one guy they had to give up, and they got one of the better relievers that they could have gotten on the market last year. Like Kopech's always had good stuff. It just they needed a team to have
I
him
mean,
like dial in stuff.
it's also. I mean, they also got rid of one of his main pitches. It was like the slider or something that he just kept spamming with the
Yeah, I
White
think it was a
Sox.
slider or cutter, one of the two.
Yeah, and so the Dodgers just told him, okay, you're just going to focus on, I think it was the splitter and the fastball, and then he became dominant with them, and it's kind of all it takes sometimes. It's just you need a team to just tell a guy, all right, get rid of this pitches. Okay, cool. Now we're in business. So I don't know. Like I truly don't know what, and I hate to be so negative about like Hazen and Torrey and everything, but this is year 9 of this regime, still no championship. And I feel like at this point we're going backwards a little bit from where we were in 2023. In 2023, they went all the way to the World Series. They lost because, hey, guess what happened? They didn't do any real moves at the deadline.
Joe Mantiply
They
was our fucking game 3 starter.
at the
Game
deadline,
4.
like Mike Hazen got Paul Sewald, who was great for us. I'm not going to deny that, but he got Paul Sewald, Tommy Pham, and Jace Peterson.
Oh god. And who do we have to give up? Chad Patrick, who's killing it for the Brewers right now.
So he's giving up, guys that are actually good, and then also buying guys who were fine. They were fine. I mean, I don't know. Part of me feels like this team needs a Tommy Pham in that clubhouse to get guys right, or an Evan Longoria. But this team needed a DH that season because they had no DH. It was Evan Longoria. What's his face? He's now with the Orioles, the third baseman. I forgot that guy's name.
Oh, O'Hearn?
Eduardo? No, Eduardo. Whatever.
Escobar? No.
No, no, no. Oh my god, to deal with the beard. I mean, he's not good. damn right.
Manuel Rivera.
Oh, Emmanuel Rivera. There you go. Him. That's where DHs were that season, and this team needed a DH. They didn't get one, and then again they needed some bullpen help. They just got Paul Sewell, who was great, but to remind you guys again, Thompson was taken off of a trash heap that they DFA'd him in. But this team needed a starting pitcher, and they got none. This team went to the World Series with Merrill Kelly, Brandon Pfaadt, and Zach Gallen, and that was basically it.
Yes,
So
I think you made a joke about it in our group chat before, saying like Moneyball has done irreparable damage to sports. And I know it was more of a joke, but it did seem like the D-backs Moneyballed their way into the World Series. But for anybody that actually watched Moneyball, how did the A's season end there? It ended in the playoffs because again they didn't touch on it, but the A's were a good enough team to get to the playoffs, but they just didn't have enough to get even by the first round. The D-backs were lucky enough to have enough momentum to get all the way to the World Series, and then their big holes in their roster started to show through. And you actually bring up the second question here that I was going to ask. So you put it up on a tee perfectly, just like half the Diamondbacks bullpen against the Marlins in this series here. And again, I know people might brand some of us as like Tory haters every now and then, whatnot. Even Elise is saying that Tory doesn't or Hazen doesn't get enough negative attention. Tory bears the brunt of the terrible bullpens Hazen puts together. So my question to you, Gabe, everyone else in chat along or that's listening along with us, or anybody that's listening to the recording afterwards, again, a lot of this is it's a two-way street. The players need to perform better, yes. But some of the decisions, whether it's the team roster construction, the in-game managerial decisions, can get a little bit old at times. And I feel like whether it's the punting, whether it's the refusing to give up on a player like Pavin Smith, refusing to sell high on a guy like Jake McCarthy in the offseason, there just seems to be a lot of misses. So if the D-backs do indeed miss out on the playoffs this year, which is at the rate they're currently going, it's tracking like that. Do you think that Torrey and Hazen are gone this year, or do you think it's going to take one more year of them missing the playoffs? Because I believe even Elise brought up earlier, saying that the D-backs made the playoffs this decade, so we're going to have to wait until 2030 because that's pretty much seems how our track record is. I mean, they made it in 2007, then again in 2011. 17, so twice in the tens, and then obviously once here. So maybe we'll do it twice again, because again, I guess we've done it twice in every decade. 01, 3 times. 01, 02, 07. 01, 02 is the last time we've made it in back-to-back years, unfortunately.
yeah,
Twice in the 2010s and now currently just once in the 2020s. So do you think that if another playoff miss this year that we are kind of on pace for, does that doom or spell the end to the Torrey and Hazen, because I feel like they're kind of a package combo, regime here in Arizona, or do you think they're going to be given one more year as all right, this is generally your last shot, like if you don't get us to, like Mike, if you don't start to be a more proactive manager or proactive general manager, an aggressive manager, address like here's a blank checkbook, I don't fucking care if we go over our team franchise high record payroll, go get some effective arms, don't do this Walmart $2 movie, or go to Zia and find some fucking DVDs for 25 cents a piece. Like, go actually spend money on some guys. Like, do you think that it's going to be another year or so, or do you think there's a possibility that they could be let go this year if they miss out on the playoffs?
I guess this is another. Will they and should they? I am leaning towards they should fire both of them because again, this is year 9 of this. It hasn't worked, and if this season ends where they're well below 500, I think both of them need to be gone. And it could be a reactionary thing, but the thing is, you can't fire the players. The only thing you can do is really fire the manager, or fire the GM. As great as Hazen has been here, um, it's his dumpster diving moves haven't paid off. I mean, a lot of these moves truly haven't paid off. And the guy who's been running the ship in terms of the prospects and how good these prospects have been has been Emil Sade. It hasn't been Mike Hazen. So I feel to a certain extent would be fine if we got Sade instead of Hazen. In terms of Tory, the punts, the baffling bullpen decisions. I mean, that's cost us quite a few games this season. So I know people say like, "Oh, managers are only responsible for like 2 or 3 games a season." Well, those 2 and 3 games could have been what kept us from making the playoffs last year because they were only out by 1 game. So if you get a manager who is a lot quicker at pulling guys when he needs to, better at recognizing when a guy doesn't have anything. Like Jalen Biggs today, and I mean, at least is bringing it up in the chat as well. Jalen Biggs faced 5 guys. He had walked 3 of them, and he clearly had nothing. He was almost at 30 pitches. He had given up 3 runs the day before, just had nothing the day before, had nothing today. And you had what's his face, Curtis in the bullpen. You also had Shelby. So either one of those could have come in, when the bases were loaded. They just needed to get the 1 out, and then Biggs allowed a single, allowed 2 runs. And at that point, I was like, Tori, take him out. This is the time to take him out. He's clearly not getting the job done. He leaves him in, gets another hit, and then 2 more runs score and put the game out of reach. Like, what was the score today? 64. If he would have pulled him before the first hit, they would have won. If he pulled him out after the actual first hit, then they would have been tied. It's a completely different game. And same with on Friday. If he wouldn't have punted and let Scott in the whole time, I mean, Thompson was fresh. Thompson hasn't pitched like in 3 or 4 games before that. He was or days, I guess, should say, not games. He could have brought in Thompson. Thompson could have gotten the 9th. It would have been pretty easy, and they would have won that game. So I don't know. I don't think they will, just because of the injuries. They'll blame it on the injuries the way they have all these years. And if 2021 didn't make it so both Torrey and Hazen got fired, then I don't think this year will either.
Yeah, like I'm on the same. I might not be as the same on. They need to be fired this year because I still think that. Again, I know it's not an excuse with injuries, but it's still something to at least take into account for. And at least some of it does go on to like if Hazen did genuinely, give this team a bullpen. But it was just a lot of blown games because of Torrey either having too short of a leash with the guy, or too long of a leash for a guy, or just making some baffling decisions on like lineups and whatnot. I could see maybe letting him go. But I'm kind of on the same page as even what I believe Charles Elliott saying in the comments here. He's saying that since 2027 is when we should be getting Burns, Puck, and J-Mart back, that's probably the last straw season. And I think that's probably going to be what the case is. You're going to be getting into Corbin Carroll's, 4th or 5th year at that point. Or a 5th year at that point. Ketel Marte is probably going to be at the nearing either the peak or the downside of his, prime. You're going to be seeing hopefully some more of these younger guys come up, so maybe some of the youthful impact. Like I wouldn't be surprised if Lynn, Geisting, Groover, Waldschmidt, maybe even a guy like Slade Caldwell is up here because Gurriel should be probably gone by then because I believe he was only signed to a 4-year deal in 24. And I wouldn't be surprised maybe even he's dealt this offseason or this deadline potentially if they do end up like going into a full like hard sell. So I think 2027, I agree with Charles Elliott. I think that's the big like final straw. Like if they generally do not make it back to the playoffs, if they just have another disappointing season, I can see Kendrick being like, hey, you know what, we're not going to do this. Like we just got a brand new agreement with the state, or a brand new bill passed to where we're going to be getting the stadium fixed. We're going to make it a much better place, fixing AC, getting better sound set, or betting like video board, a bunch of changes going in the team. So he wants the team on the field to probably match what they're putting into the stadium itself. And if we're not getting that, if we're going to have this constant, 4, 5, 6 year gap in between playoff appearances, I could definitely see 2027 be, the final straw because, again, not every decision, it's, like I said before, it's a two-way street. Not everything is a black and white, decision, whether it's the medical staff has so a guy red line or whatnot. So sometimes it ties Torrey's hands on who he can even use out of the already depleted bullpen that he's been provided by Hazen. I do think that it would be one of those where, you know what, you got to ship him out, and including the medical staff. At this point, if I know some of the injuries lately, especially guys being hit, even Torrey was being vocal, I believe, in a post-game presser about how he's frustrated with opposing teams. If you can't pitch inside, don't pitch inside. And that is something that nobody can control on our side. I get it. But there are certain injuries like, again, Josh Naylor, who we haven't really talked much about. He messed up his shoulder in Chicago, said everything was fine, went back into the lineup in Game 3, hit the home run, looked like he's fine. Now he's missed the last, 2 games with a potential shoulder injury. They, waited on Corbin. It's just so many baffling moves from the medical staff on either being way too patient with the guy and not getting him the proper diagnosis that he needs as soon as possible or whatnot. They throw them in there too with shipping out Hazen. If anything, they need to be out after this year. If I'm being completely honest.
Yeah, it's like the
Like,
training staff just they all need to go. I don't know what they're doing, like with the constant redlining of guys saying who isn't available. I mean, they're not keeping these guys healthy. I don't know what the hell they're doing, and with all these weird injuries, like guys who get injured, obviously every guy wants to play, so they're going to be saying, "Yeah, I'm good to go." Don't take him at their word. Give him an MRI, give him an X-ray, whatever it is. Like they're not going to get cancer from getting an MRI or X-ray, like despite what like Joe Rogan will say. But these things are good for a reason. You need to be extra precautious with these sort of things. But
yeah, say again, some things that we just can't keep fully control of. But even another thing that's been frustrating to see this year is, as Cam brings up, the defense taking a step back. Still not sure how we let Tony P go. We should have promoted him and gave him a raise to keep him around. And I think that's something that's also really kind of showing it, because today Gino had a couple plays where maybe not the easiest play in the world, but maybe a decision that would be better made to just, even as Gabe said in our group chat, just eat the ball, don't throw it and move on. But like I said, I know I was mostly joking, but this was our what would you call it? The eulogy, our gathering around as we buried the corpse that is the 2025 D-back season. Again, mostly joking because again, there's still, I would say, at least a month left of games for this team to prove that they are, not who we think they are, and they can be much better. But it's not going to be the easiest schedule, as they are going to now stay at home, thankfully. They're not going on another road trip, but they're facing the San Francisco Giants to end off the month here and begin the month of July. They're going, let's see what I'm checking what the pitching matchups should be. So it looks like tomorrow it's going to be Logan Webb, who has a 2.52 ERA, going up against Ryan Nelson, 3.71 in the season. Tuesday it's going to be Hayden Birdsong, 4.13 ERA against Zach Gallen. So get ready for the Giants to hit 3 or 4 home runs. I think Colin Rupp is his name. I'm trying to. Oh, Landon Roop. Never heard of him, but he has a 3.43 ERA. He's probably gonna go 6 innings with 1 run against us. Going up against Merrill the mainstay, looking to bounce back from his game on Friday. And then Thursday, the final game of that series is going to be former D-back Robbie Ray, 8-3 with a 2.75 ERA, going up against Brandon Fott, who is up there with Zach Gallen for having 2 of the worst ERAs for qualified starting pitchers on the season. And the only bright side I can think about this is the Giants did just get, I think, swept by the White Sox. So they are not playing their greatest ball as of late. They're kind of on a little bit of a downswing, but they're still in a much better position we are. They're 45 and 39. It's crazy to say like 45 and 39 is much better position. They're only 4 games, better than, or I guess 6 games over 500. But just the tale of how the 2 seasons are looking so far. My question, I guess, what are you looking for into the series? I know it's hard to be positive, especially like I said, after being swept by the Miami Marlins and going 4-5 over a 9-game span against the worst teams in the league. What are you going to be looking out for? Maybe something positive that you're going to try to hope for, whether it's a pitcher, a player, a certain matchup, and maybe even a potential prediction as the Giants come to town for a 4-game set here.
the main thing, I just want this team to make up some ground. That's all they need to do right now. Like, if they truly want to be a contender, just make up some ground, however it is. Like 3-1, and anything other than a split or a series loss. I think if they go 3-1, it should put them back into contention again, because they will gain a couple of games on the Giants, and then going forward, you would hope they are facing some of the other in-division opponents and wildcard teams. So you just hope that they can make just enough ground to stay competitive and to stay 2 games in that wildcard spot. I think if they're at least 2 games in that wildcard spot, it should be good enough to where they should hopefully be able to buy.
Yeah, I agree. Just needs something to. Again, the season's not fully over. We're mostly just making jokes, but it's just the frustration's kind of getting to a boiling point here with our expectations and what we're actually seeing put out into the field here with the Diamondbacks. Especially just it's being gaslit. It's these constant fake comebacks. It's we have a 7-3 lead against the Marlins on Saturday. Cool. Bullpen fucking shits the bed. And Like, would just give me a few solid games of a complete game of a complete win, where we don't have to worry about sweating our ass off and just watching every single pitch with a heart rate of like over in like the 120s. But I need the D-backs to show us some life here still, even if it means that we're only going to be soft buyers or even potentially soft sellers. Just don't have it be a series that really solidifies. Yeah, this team just needs to blow it up, sell Gino, Naylor, Merrill Kelly, Gurriel, all these guys, and just try to get something, because that's just depressing. That means, like, what else do we watch the rest of the season? But hopefully we don't have to worry about going that route. And hopefully when we see you guys again on either Thursday, I'm assuming Thursday night probably when we go live. Hopefully when you see you guys next on Thursday, we will have a little bit of a more positive spin to put on all these things, whether it's at worst a series. A series split. I feel like that's got to be the minimum. You can't go another game under 500 going into the rest of this month's schedule. You got to try to get some momentum back. And even a split, while not the greatest, is much better than being, 2, even 3, potential 4. If they get swept by the Giants here, it's over. Like, it's never been more Jover. Just sell them all. But we appreciate you guys joining us here at Dbacks Dispatch for another episode or another series recap here. This one over the Marlins. Hope to see you guys for the next one on Thursday night. And as I said all the time, make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe on the YouTube channel. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. If you are not in the Discord yet, go to the Twitter. It should be our linked or our pinned tweet. Join the Discord, hop in there, especially for our game day threads. I know it's an easier place to rant about the team and maybe get off some of your frustrations without people on Twitter saying you're not a real fan for having an opinion on the team that's not with the blind optimism group of people. Make sure you guys also go over to azsnakepit.com, check out all the articles, and then we will see you again on Thursday for, like I said, hopefully, fingers crossed, a more positive series note. But in the meantime, you guys have a great rest of your Sunday. We'll catch you later. Peace.
Under the lights, the game goes down. Tears a heap, but we own this town. Brennan gave on the call, with Josh in the back, bringing it all. Fastballs hum, the bats ignite. 9 innings deep, we fight all night. Wins and losses, highs and lows, we break it down, yeah, that's how it goes. D-backs dispatch, turn it on.